Global Operations is a multiplayer-focused tactical shooter similar to Counter-Strike. In fact, it's got its sights set on Counter-Strike. It's sort of a similar game superficially. Hi, I'm Greg Kasavin for GameSpot Live. I'm here to talk about Global Operations on behalf of Eric Wolpaw, our contributor who reviewed it for us. Global Operations was created by Barking Dog Studios, a team that actually worked on Counter-Strike for a while. It takes place in real-world locations, it has more than 30 different real-world weapons, and its levels focus on realistic military objectives. In short, the game certainly could have used some more polish before it went out on the shelves, but despite its problems, Global Operations actually has a lot of really interesting and even innovative features, and turns out to be one of the deepest and most satisfying multiplayer shooters currently out there. One of the things that's supposed to distinguish Global Operations from Counter-Strike is that it has a single-player component, but the single-player component really isn't very good and really isn't something that you should get the game for. At best, it's just a way to practice using some of the guns and going through some of the levels. It's basically equivalent to the multiplayer mode, only you play it with computer-controlled bots, both on your team and on the enemy team. And the bots really don't do that good of a job. You'll spot some problems with the AI. The bots aren't totally awful or anything, but the single player in Global Operations really serves as more of a training mode than anything else. Every multiplayer round in Global Ops begins with you purchasing equipment, much like in Counter-Strike, but you also choose a character class. There are a number of different classes like the Medic and the Heavy Gunner and the Commando, and there are also some more unusual ones like the Intelligence Officer and the Recon. These different classes determine your special abilities and the weapons you'll be more proficient with. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory, but a couple of them deserve some more attention. The Intelligence Officer basically has access to an overhead map and can issue waypoints to his other team members. It's an interesting idea, but not that many people use it in practice because you want to be out there shooting at people rather than telling your buddies where they should go. The Recon Officer is a lot more interesting, though. Basically, he makes it so that you can distinguish both friends and enemies by a colored blip on the screen. This effectively lets you see some enemies through walls, and since Global Ops has a damage model that lets certain high-caliber rounds pierce through certain kinds of walls, you can often see enemies coming up at you through like wooden doors and shoot them right through those surfaces, and that makes for some of the game's most satisfying moments. Being around a Recon Officer also just encourages team play in general. You want to be around one of these guys so they can give you this advantage. Matches in Global Ops aren't the short 4 or 5 minute deals that they are in Counter-Strike. They're more like 20 to 30 minutes long, and they use a reinforcement system much like in Wolfenstein, so it's not like you're out as soon as you get killed, but you might have to sit out for a few minutes until you get thrown back into the fray.
Go, go, go!
One of the interesting things is if you get shot down, you'll actually drop your gun and it'll be there waiting for you if you happen to get back to it when you respawn. So although you can purchase equipment at the beginning of every round, sometimes you need to ask yourself, well, maybe I could just run back to where I last dropped that thing and pick it back up. It's an interesting tactical decision. The 13 levels in Global Ops are all excellent, actually. They have a number of interesting different passageways that you could take. They all have various objectives, and they're a lot of fun to play on and to learn. The game uses the Lithtech engine, so it doesn't look all that great, but it looks serviceable. The enemies and the friendly players are easy to distinguish from each other, and you'll see a lot of different death animations. One problem, though, is that although you'll see a dramatic animation when you actually kill somebody, when you're just hitting them, you can't really tell sometimes. There isn't enough visual feedback when you're shooting another player. The game has some other cool visual effects, like for night vision goggles, and also for when you get hit by tear gas, you'll see everything go blurry and your vision gradually fading in and out. Global Operations sounds excellent. All of the guns sound entirely different. You'll learn to recognize their sounds in the field. There are also some really cool audio effects, like when a grenade goes off near you and doesn't kill you, you'll hear it ringing in your ears as all the other sound mutes out for a while. As mentioned, Global Ops does have a few serious flaws, and currently the biggest one is probably that there aren't that many servers available to play on. Part of the problem is that server requirements are really steep. You need a dedicated T1 line to host a server, so that might explain why there aren't that many of them up. If you don't have a broadband connection, the game itself is practically unplayable, although the game runs fine if you do have a broadband connection. There are some other really cool touches in the game, like when you're trying to defuse a bomb, if you're any other class besides the demolitions expert, you just randomly pick one of the wires to try to cut, just like in the movies.
I'm hurt and need assistance. Affirmative. Enemy down.
So with details like that in there, it's surprising that some other types of things that you might expect were in fact left out. For instance, there's no voting system currently implemented in the game. So if you're playing with some guy who's killing all his team members, it's hard to do something about it. Also, there's not a lot of information in the game itself about the various guns. It would have been really cool if there was a shooting range of some sort where you could just test them out. So basically, in order to play and enjoy Global Ops, you need to not really care about the single-player game, have a fast internet connection, and be able to get on a good server. But if you can manage all that, then Global Ops is just great. It has a lot of interesting features, it plays differently from other tactical shooters out there. So if you meet all the requirements and you're interested in a new and different tactical shooter, then you should definitely give Global Ops a look.